In case you somehow missed the news, because there sure has been a lot of Sadako related news this year already, Sadako was added as a new killer to Dead by Daylight this March, and interestingly, it would appear that Kadokawa, the company that holds the rights to her IP, considers her addition to the game as yet another part of Sadako's very long and confusing lore. Not only that, but the game added little Yoichi, now fully grown up and determined to deal with Sadako once again, as a survivor, continuing his story for the first time in over 20 years. So, this week, let's take a look at what Dead by Daylight is doing with two of Japan's most famous and beloved horror characters. As the game tells us, Yamamura Sadako was the daughter of a famed seer from Izu-Oshima in Japan. Sadako's mother was a bit of a mystery on this small island, and the sailors in particular disliked how much time she spent on the beach, watching the water as the waves rose and broke constantly. It was, in their mind, just a little creepy. It seemed their fears were definitely founded, however, when 9 months later, little Sadako was born. And, like her mother, she seemed to possess great powers as well, often lashing out as a child and causing quite a bit of damage. It was at the infamous public demonstration of her mother's powers that Sadako once again found herself unable to control her rage, and when everyone called her mother a fraud, she lashed out at them. A journalist dropped to the floor, dead, and everything went downhill very quickly after that. Sadako's mother soon passed away, and as Sadako herself was peering over the edge of an old well, she felt a sudden surge of pain in the back of her head. 2 hands on her back gave her a hard shove as darkness claimed her. Sadako woke as she hit the cold water at the bottom of the well. Not only was her head exploding with pain, but as she looked up, she noticed that the small dot of light above her was going out. Whoever had knocked her out was now boarding her up in the well. Over and over, Sadako tried to scale the wet, stony walls surrounding her, but all she succeeded in doing was gaining a few inches before falling and tearing her nails out. Yet she did not give up, and despite the blood pouring from her hands, again and again she tried to scale those slippery walls. This was, of course, futile, but Sadako managed to survive for decades, boarded up in that dark, cold, and wet well. And 30 long years later, a resort was built on the land above, with a log cabin being built directly over her well. Here, on the verge of death, Sadako took her one last chance to extract revenge, and maybe, just maybe, be reborn. As a guest recorded something on the TV above her, Sadako used her psychic powers to imprint other images on the tape instead. She imprinted a curse that would claim all who watched it within 7 days, unless they followed a particular set of rules that would help her spread her curse further and further, affecting all who came into contact with it. Up until this point, everything should sound familiar. It should be pointed out that Dead by Daylight uses Sadako as we know her from the movies, not the books, and, in particular, from Ring and Ring 2. Pieces of information from Yoichi's lore confirm that their story continues from Ring 2 and not Spiral. Either way, at some point after the events of Ring 2, Sadako found dark fog wrapping itself around her feet. She was still in the well, but she could hear the sound of crashing waves. A tidal surge came crashing down on the cabin above her, destroying it and flooding her well with darkness. When Sadako awoke, she found herself on an empty beach facing a dark, stormy ocean. That same fog lingered over the water's surface, and as a giant wave approached her, Sadako embraced it and walked forward, disappearing into the darkness. And this, it's explained, is how Sadako ended up in the world of Dead by Daylight, known in-game as the Onryo. Interestingly, being a ghost, Sadako is incapable of physically touching anyone, which, you would think would make being a killer somewhat impossible, considering they have to attack their victims and then pick them up to put them on hooks. And Kadokawa even stipulated that Sadako not be allowed to touch anyone in-game. This was one of their conditions. Thus, Sadako is, as of this moment, the only killer who does not physically harm survivors or objects. Instead, she uses her psychic powers, which are represented by the curse kanji in-game. And then we have Asakawa Yoichi, a young boy who was only 7 the last time we saw him and suffered the loss of both his parents thanks to Sadako's curse. The producers revealed they were unable to get the likeness of Reiko or Ryuji, Yoichi's parents, so they decided to age the boy up instead and continue his story. Like his parents, Yoichi appeared to possess some supernatural powers even as a child, and the loss of his parents to Sadako's curse affected him greatly. After that, we never saw Yoichi in the movies again, but thanks to Dead by Daylight, with the assistance of Kadokawa themselves, we now have a continuation of his story. Despite the loss of both his parents, Yoichi pushed forward with life and graduated with top honors in marine biology from a Tokyo university. Much like his father before him, Yoichi becomes a professor. In fact, he becomes the youngest in his school's history. Yoichi is incredibly gifted, in more ways than one. However, despite several decades having now passed since those fateful events that claimed his parents, and nearly him too, it would appear that Sadako has not yet let her grip on the boy go. Several of Yoichi's students go missing when they are in Izuoshima, Sadako's former home, for research. Those horrifying memories of the events that took place come flooding back into Yoichi's mind. Before him, he sees Sadako rise, coming to claim him once more, to let him know that he'll never be free of her grip. But when he screams and opens his eyes, she is gone. Or is she? Yoichi is confused. Was this a warning, or something even more ominous? Has Sadako really returned after all these years to haunt him again? Was she the reason his students disappeared? Yoichi grew up with psychic powers, and he spent much of his life researching and trying to understand them. This, combined with his knowledge of the ocean as a marine biology professor, has led him to believe that the solution to all of this lies somewhere in the ocean. That is where Sadako came from, after all, and water has long held strong ties to the supernatural. And it's in the water that he'll find the answers to all of his questions. Thus, Yoichi lets his desire for knowledge, for answers, consume him. He delves into all sorts of research that other folks might find a little less than academic, such as cryptozoology, theology, parapsychology, and more. And the further he went, the more he was ridiculed. Just like Sadako's mother, that fateful day that started everything. Once seen as superbly intelligent, the youngest professor his school had ever seen, now people view him as unstable, a brilliant young man who lost his mind in the pursuit of knowledge. Yoichi's school fired him for his erratic behavior, but he didn't let that stop him. He contacted various other schools throughout the country, although none would touch him with a 10-foot pole. And then finally, he went to the media instead. Perhaps, ironically, ending up with the same company where his late mother used to work. They offered to fund his research, as long as they get the first rights to publish it. It's during this time that Yoichi starts seeing visions of his father, who urges him to continue his current course. Like a man crazed, Yoichi works himself to the bone, and during his travels, he comes across news of 4 vloggers mysteriously disappearing near a lighthouse in Scotland. Sensing some connection to the water yet again, Yoichi takes the first flight he can to further investigate. A local professor seems to confirm Yoichi's suspicions when he reveals that 70 years earlier, a film crew also disappeared from that same spot. It's like there's something ancient, something dark, that calls from the depths of the sea like a siren. Again, Yoichi's father appears before him, letting his son know that he's on the right path and to keep going. Yoichi charters a fishing boat and heads out to the Flannan Isles, also known as the Seven Hunters, a small cluster of islands to the west of Scotland where the lighthouse is located. The lighthouse is no longer manned, but rather automated and controlled remotely. And as Yoichi spots it, it seems to be blinking in and out of existence like it's on its dying legs. As though warning them away, the ocean violently whips up and threatens to crash the boat. The fishermen beg Yoichi to return, but they're far too close now. He won't let them keep him from his goal. As they argue, the boat is tossed by a giant wave and dashed against the rocks. Yoichi falls into the water, and when he sees his father standing in the lighthouse, he swims towards him. Now, it seems the lighthouse is the one beckoning him, and as Yoichi climbs the stairs to meet his father, a dark fog envelops the area. Before long, it's as if the ocean itself has swallowed him whole, and when he next awakes, he finds himself somewhere not even he could have imagined. And so, Sadako and Yoichi now find themselves in the world of the Entity, subjected to trials of life or death. Yoichi's specific skill set and history allow him to effectively hide from killers, call out to other injured survivors, and even help others move faster. This all ties into his psychic powers, as well as his bravery and resolve in the face of death. After all, he has faced death numerous times throughout his life, and he has never let it keep him down. Sadako, meanwhile, takes advantage of her own psychic powers and unleashes her curse upon any survivors unlucky enough to face off against her in the trials. As in our world, she can appear through television sets, using them to traverse around levels, and if a survivor's curse meter fills all the way to 7, just like the 7 days her victims back in our world got, then she can appear to kill them instantly. Her powers also allow her to expose hidden survivors, watch over generators, and repeatedly hamper survivor progress. She's sneaky and she's stealthy, and if you don't watch yourself, she'll seemingly appear out of nowhere to claim your life as her own. With her psychic powers, of course. She is a ghost, after all. And that is the story behind Sadako and Yoichi as they appear in Dead by Daylight. Yet another continuation in Sadako's long and somewhat confusing history, but a first for Yoichi since the events of Ring 2. What did you guys think about this one? Are you currently playing with either Sadako or Yoichi in Dead by Daylight? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.